Hi, I'm Arkush for ChicagoSunTimes.com, here with our weekly NFL fantasy football preview as you get ready for week 3 of your fantasy football season. A couple guys may be available on your waiver wire, probably not. They probably got gobbled up this past week. But if they're out there, look at Terrence West, the rookie running back for the Cleveland Browns, or Justin Forsett, still listed as the number 2 running back for the Baltimore Ravens. They're guys you want on your team. They're guys you want to play this week. Terrence West has taken hold of the running back job in Cleveland, been very successful his first 2 weeks. It looks like Ben Tate's going to end up a backup again, and West will get a chance to do some serious business this week for the Cleveland Browns. I would get him in the lineup if you can. Justin Forsett, not quite as successful so far as West. He is still sharing carries with Bernard Pierce, but his 116 yards on less than 20 carries, 6.6 average, very, very impressive. We know the Baltimore Ravens want to continue to run the football. Forsett is another guy you want to get your hands on. Now, maybe in your draft you handcuffed a couple Detroit running backs. You said, I'm going to take Reggie Bush, got to take Joique Bell with him. First 2 weeks, they've been very disappointing. Golden Tate, the receiver, brought in to complement Calvin Johnson, hasn't done that much either. A lot of that was the Carolina Panther defense they ran into last week. This week, at home, against a Green Bay Packer defense that has really struggled, I would get Reggie Bush in my lineup. I would get Joique Bell in my lineup. I would get Golden Tate in my lineup. Joique Bell probably will get more touches than Reggie Bush at this point. He appears to be the more effective of the two, but the real way to play them, running backs on the same team, have them handcuffed. Don't be afraid to start one, make the other one your flex player. Could be a good way to go. Now, do you have any New England Patriots offensive players on your team? If you do, line them up and play them, whether it's Stephen Ridley or Kenbrell Tompkins. They've got the Oakland Raiders coming to town this week. The Raiders have been awful. Now they've got to go coast to coast to New England, where we expect the Patriots to be ready after a big bounce-back game at home against the Minnesota Vikings. And speaking of bounce-back games, the New Orleans Saints are going to open at home. The Minnesota Vikings are going to come calling. Now, as you look at the Saints, if you had Mark Ingram, that was a great play. He's got the broken hand now. He's out for 4 weeks. Kyrie Robinson, Pierre Thomas, very nice plays at running backs. If you have them, you might want to grab one off the waiver wire if you see them available. For the Minnesota Vikings, here's the matchup you want to avoid. There is no Viking player that I would put on the field this weekend. Yes, the Saints defense has been awful. That's why they're 0-2. This is their home opener. They need a big bounce back, and without Adrian Peterson, as good as Norv Turner is, I just don't see Matt Asiata or Cordarrelle Peterson or Greg Jennings suddenly ripping off any big games. So stay away from your Viking offensive players. And finally, one that will surprise some people. You probably have Matt Forte as your number 1 running back. If you draft him, he was probably a top 5 or top 6 pick in every fantasy league out there. Don't play him this week in New York if you've got any quality backups. The reason, had his worst game in 3 years last week in San Francisco. Jets are coming back home. I don't know if the Jets can win the football game, but when it comes to fantasy, that defense is outstanding. They're going to be geared to take away Matt Forte. I expect they'll give the Bears some other things, play their receivers, play their tight ends, but I would be very careful about putting Matt Forte in my lineup this week as the Jets are geared to stop him. For ChicagoSunTimes.com, that's our Week 3 NFL Fantasy Football Preview. For the best in sports 24/7, stay right where you are.